So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. It's here, the first segment of the day. Yes, just a couple of days after Christmas and one day after, well, 2 days after Boxing Day. Is it 2 days? Yeah, 2 days after Boxing Day. I've got LTL, the original Godfather, back with me again, sharing the platform with me. You know what? The hardest thing for me personally, I know I'm a winter baby. I was born in January. But the dark nights, and even more so with the pandemic, I do find it a little bit hard to kind of get myself motivated. And the one escapism for me, maybe for our subscribers, is Canon 4 TV. I'm not sure about you two. How do you feel about these times, man?
Yeah, I do. I do. It's dark days, dark times, and I suppose Christmas is a bittersweet time, really. If you've got young kids around the house, it's absolutely wonderful. But sometimes, we have sad memories that things that happened around Christmas time. Sometimes that can overwhelm people. And life is difficult. So, as you say, talking about Arsenal and thinking about Arsenal is a lovely way. It's a cure-all, isn't it? You can think about your favourite team. We're all buoyed by our recent victory against our North London, well, our London neighbours, West London neighbours, and so it's good. It's good to have something to talk about, and I know lots of people tune in to podcasts just to get away from the humdrum day.
Mm. And a lot of people tune in just to see Terry.
Yeah.
This ain't no Amazon Prime, Canon 4 TV. But listen, I know one or two of you told me last week that you've contracted coronavirus. I'm hoping those guys who came and chat last week are feeling a lot better in these dark days. Very precarious moments we're living in. But listen, we'll get in the bare bones of the game. What game? Yeah, we beat Chelsea. We won. Yes. Yeah, the past tense of win. We'll see you another time. This music intro. Yeah, so welcome back, my friends, to Cannon for the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Yeah, the first segment of the day, there's going to be like a pre-recorded update on Thomas Partey's injury. Yeah, I know you guys have been asking me, what's going with Thomas Partey? Can he party? You have to wait and see for my video. And also, I'll be back 5:30 with LTEL again with James Rowe as well to give you some more thoughts on the last week's action. But guys who are watching now, I can see the numbers slowly rising. Make sure you subscribe to Canon Fodder TV. Hit the bell notification button so you can receive all the latest news right here on Canon Fodder TV. So let me just quickly get into the first bit of news I have here. And the first bit is in regards to the Greek defender. Yes, Socrates Papastathopoulos. An Arsenal defender agent holds a positive meeting with foreign club. This news is coming from Alan Sports. Fenerbahce want to sign the Greek defender in January, and Socrates would probably most likely go on a free transfer if the conditions are right. Tel, what's been your thoughts in regards to how Arsenal have handled Socrates?
Well, it's difficult. I do know that my son has a friend he used to work with, who's a very good friend of Socrates. And when we lost in Baku, the man was absolutely gutted. They met for a coffee just off Oxford Street somewhere. And I think he's a genuine guy. I think we got him at the wrong part of his career, towards the end of his career. But he did a job for a period of time. But this freezing out of players, in hindsight, it's inside out, back to front. If you're going to freeze a player out, you're not going to include them in your EPL list of players. Then really, what you should do, instead of pushing them outside the tent and causing all kinds of, well, they're probably he's the sort of guy who wouldn't cause all kinds of problems, but the press will make it look that way because they sort of want to sell newspapers. So my personal opinion is, if you're going to push people outside the tent, then you should sell them straight away. And they're obviously now got to the point where they're going to allow him to sort of go for free. I think he cost about 15 or 16 million, which isn't peanuts, And all along the line, you can see an awful lot of errors that have been done, basic errors in how to run a club fiscally and financially secure. And this buying of players or giving players contracts and then players sitting on the contract and not working hard enough. And then when I look at the backroom team, I don't see enough depth of knowledge and experience there. Probably quite rightly, we've lost Raul Senlehi. From what I hear, there was all kinds of stuff going on there that shouldn't be. And maybe Hus family the same. He suddenly vanished. But they're trying to run a 2 or 3 man show now, which isn't going to work. And you kind of need a business minded person, ideally multilingual. And I don't think Edu actually matches that yet. He comes across in any interview that I've seen as pretty green, sort of greenhorn as they used to call them. And I'm sure he'll be very good at his job in time. But it just, if you look at Leicester City, the way they bought players on continually, got good managers there, and if a manager wasn't good, they got him out, but they've ended up with Rodgers, who's a good manager, very experienced. They've got a very good scouting system. People have been poaching all their scouts over the last few years, and yet they're still coming up with some fantastic players. Brighton, who we are about to play, have at least 2 players that Arsenal are very, very keen on buying. So you have to say to yourself, I think our youth setup is good. Goodness knows what's going to happen to that after the shake-up. But we have a rich vein of youngsters coming through, and that will sustain us for the next few years, I'm absolutely sure. But Socrates will have to go because they've decided that he's surplus to requirements. And yes, okay, they're going to invest in youth.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, but I don't have any qualms about him doing his best. And he's done his best for Arsenal. And I'd wave the man off and say thank you.
Yeah. Here. So I know we're going to be talking about the game against Chelsea after I've gone through my new segments. Just a quick question to you. Willian and David Luiz reported in sick, which is why we didn't see them even on the bench. Do you think Arteta would have played them if they weren't sick?
Well, I suspect there's a lot more going on than we're being told. I mean, we have been, the rumours are that these 2 guys are stirring. And isn't it funny that the 2 guys that are stirring are always around together? And when one gets sick, the other one gets sick. I suspect that they've been caught, the club has called them out. I know William got fined for his escapade out in Dubai.
Yeah.
He and Louise own a bar somewhere. I don't know if it's in Dubai or not, but they certainly own a bar somewhere. And there's all kinds of stuff going on there. And we've just imported a whole bunch of trouble when we got Willian in. And I suspect that there isn't COVID, because don't tell me that a big club like Arsenal couldn't pay for a quick COVID test. Of course they can. Of course they can. They'd have the result back. My daughter is at uni, and she had to have a couple of tests before she came back home for Christmas. And the results came through in less than an hour.
Wow.
Oh, are you telling me that Arsenal can't get these 2 boys tested? Nah. That was nothing to do with having symptoms. That was to do with them being reprimanded.
Yeah.
And, if Arteta's got any sense at all, he'd get shot of them in this transfer window. Get them out, whatever money they can get for either of them, because they're causing problems in the squad. And funny enough, over the years when I've been watching football, both Arsenal and other clubs, when you go and watch them and follow what's going on, sometimes managers are lucky and they kind of by force of players getting injured or getting suspended or whatever it might be, they bring in the young lads, the young kids, and the young kids do well. And then I personally think at the moment Arteta's very worried. He's not used to this. Had we got Rodgers in, Rodgers would have been very used to the dips that people get. And I think he's gone into a kind of, he's tumbling around thinking, how do I do this? What do I do with that? And what he's trying to do is not change the team too much. I think we can trace our errors back to a couple of things. One was the sending in of the EPL list, which put some players outside the tent.
Yeah.
And then he changed his system from that very defensive five at the back, low block, having your fast forwards running into space, and that's how we ended up winning the FA Cup. And then he decided after the Man United win 1-0, he then decided, okay, I've had enough of this defensive game and trying to sneak a goal. I'm now going to go to 4-4-2. That was an absolute disaster. I think he'd done an awful lot of coaching of the players, so he couldn't really go back on it. Otherwise, they'd wonder what the heck is going on. So he's kind of modified it a bit, and he's keeping the 4 there, and he's keeping the sort of pivot of 2, and then he's having 3 plus 1 up front. So I think by more by luck than judgment, he's stumbled upon a system that seems to work. It certainly worked against Chelsea, and some youth players have come through. Emile Smith-Rowe has been a revelation, and we knew Martinez was a good player, and we know Saka's a wonderful player. And now we've got Emile Smith-Rowe, and there are more. People who follow the under-23s will know there are more. I was a bit annoyed that we ended up giving away a penalty, right?
Yeah.
Again, that felt unnecessary. That a really good defence would just stand up, don't dive in, don't go near him, don't touch him, just stand between him and the goal. And 9 times out of 10, it's fine. The ball goes out for a corner, you know.
Talking about youngsters, next part actually of my new segment in regards to Saka, Bukayo Saka, and he scored a wonder goal. And when he was asked at the end of the game, did you mean that? He said, "Well, yeah, I scored a goalkeeper off the line." Terry, did he really mean that, Terry?
First of all, I love his answer. And if people haven't seen it, have a look on the internet, because at one point, is it Tammy, he calls himself Abraham, said, "You didn't mean that." And Saka was walking off with Ainsley, and he immediately came back with, "Oh, I saw the goalie off his line, I chipped him or something." And Tammy wasn't having that. And Ainsley laughed and put his arm around Saka, and the two of them went off laughing. So I love the fact that he had the presence of mind to come back with a funny response. Yeah. I mean, it looked 98%. It looked like a shank or a swinging leg, but they all go in. I've watched Arsenal over the years, and this recently we've one of our big errors is we don't take enough shots, whether they shank, whether they're going off your knee, your backside. I mean, Chelsea's goal came off his stomach or his chest. So go for goal and shank it, do whatever you like. And it was the look of the Chelsea's goalkeeper. Absolute delight. He could not believe it, you know.
All right, and the last bit of that's 2 more segments. This one is in regards to Granit Xhaka, LTL, and some people not happy in regards to his response. Some people on Twitter said a disgusting attitude. Arsenal fans livid with an egotistic £35 million self-seeking comments. Arsenal fans have taken to Twitter in anger after seeing Granit Xhaka toe the even standard for the win over Chelsea. And he went on to say, I was very disappointed about my red card, and I knew what I did was wrong from my side, but I am more than happy. People going on and on and on again and again about my attitude, but for me, I kind of gave the best. But people saying, well, so why is it only now you're trying to step up? You should always come with that attitude there.
Yeah.
But people are not happy. People are not happy, I'll
I mean, one of the things Emery did, unfortunately, was to put it to a vote who should be captain. And it gave us, if you like, an insider view as to the dynamics in the dressing room. And for some reason, we don't know how come, but for some reason, Xhaka is a favourite of the players. And you and I have often seen this in classes and classrooms. You'll often have one person who all the other kids look up to. And it's difficult for Arteta coming into that, because if he then challenges this person, it's a win or lose, and it's probably lose. So he doesn't really want to come out and make a big deal. But it is obvious by the fact that we've had we've had a couple of players come out and apologise for sort of doing stupid things. Pepe, we had come out. We had Luiz come out. I forget what he did. Did he get sent off about a year ago? And he came out and apologised. But obviously, this guy isn't going to do that. And you either stare him in the face and sort of win it, or I think a lot of managers like his style of play if you can keep him just doing the things that he's kind of good at. And I think he will be sold in the summer, but I think he's got a pivot. He's the only playmaker, I suppose. He's the only guy with those long balls. Well, maybe we have Luiz who can do that, but he's got a special quality to him in terms of on the field play. Personally, I've always regarded him as only half a player, and I would rather play without him. But he obviously has a stranglehold over the dressing room in some way. So I think Arteta's having to be careful because I'm sure, himself and Steve Round and Stuyvenberg and so on and the BFG, I'm sure they've sat down and thought, what do we do with this guy? Because he's losing his rag, he's getting himself sent off. We've actually lost probably 6 points on the back of this guy being stupid. And they've obviously decided his benefits outweigh his sort of drawbacks, Personally, I wouldn't, but look, it's the way it is. We'll have to cut Arteta a bit of slack on it. He obviously sees something in him, and I think we're going to have him until the end of the season. But if anybody out there doesn't like him and doesn't see what I don't think he brings enough to the table, and I would have him out of the club, out of the dressing room, out of London. And as far away from London Colney as possible, along with Willian and Luiz, ideally in this transfer window.
Yeah. Well said. So there was a matter of a Premier League game, and we beat Chelsea 3-1. I predicted a 3-1, but I thought it's going to be the other way around. Yeah, 3-1, serious 3-1 to Chelsea. I mean, whoever literally put some shekels on that result there would have been a millionaire by now. But what was your prediction?
My prediction at home was 3-1 to Chelsea. And I said, but I hope Arsenal win 2-0. So I did get the sort of two goal gap. But I didn't see it coming. But I have seen these things happen, and they can turn a season round. It'll all depend on the next two games. And it turns out what we thought were quite easy games are tricky.
Yeah.
The Brighton matches. Brighton are playing really well at the moment. West Brom got a point up at Liverpool. So what looked like simple matches are not simple. But I think Arteta now, because he's now fallen upon a team that seems to work, and he's fallen upon this 4-2-3-1 that seems to work, and Lacazette looks much better.
What happened to him? My goodness,
he's a different man.
Wow.
I think he's actually a big guy. I remember telling you I've met his dad in the queue going into the stadium. He's the image, and his dad's a biggish guy like him. I think he's one of those guys who relishes people trying to knock him off the ball. It's like a boxer who says, "Go and punch me in the face, and I'll punch you back." And so he likes to push in and shove in, and he's got remarkably good skill for a big guy. He traps the ball well, he lays it off well, and he's fearless. And no defender wants to come up against a guy who's totally fearless. I must say also, I know one of your favourites is Rob Holding. I thought Rob Holding had a fantastic game against Chelsea. He's always good in tight spaces. As long as he's got a tight space, he's wonderful. It's when there's a load of green grass and the guy kind of tries to sort of run at him that he can be caught out because he's a bit one-paced. But I absolutely agree. In small spaces, he's a phenomenal player, and he is never bullied. And we all remember the cup final against Chelsea, and Costa was bullying every centre-back. And Rob Holding was quite young at the time. Was he 21 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Pointed at Costa as if to say, no, mate. You and Costa on the floor, and he loomed over him. So, we've got some players who've got fight. There's no doubt Rob Holding is a fighter and Lacazette's a fighter. So, keep it going.
But tell, with Lacazette, do you think his nose was kind of put out of place? Because when he came after, he was a record signing, and it's like now Alba for the last 2, 3 seasons has taken like the spotlight. So do you think he kind of relishes being like the main man, the
I
main
think
striker?
I think he does. I think he gets on with Auburn really well.
Yeah.
So are friendly rivals, and they love playing together. Back in the days of playing two strikers, instead of making the pitch as wide as possible and playing three strikers, which we kind of do now, he likes. He would have loved to have been, a striking partnership between himself when we had the like Keegan and Toshak and so on, and we had two players playing off each other. And he would love to have played alongside Oba in that situation. But I think we've hit upon a winning formula, and he takes the pushes and shoves. We've got guys in midfield like Emil Smith Rowe who know how to draw centre backs out of position. It's all gelling. And I would say, because it's now working, if I were Arteta, I'd coach less from the sidelines. I think
Really?
I would coach a little bit less. I think they've got the idea, they know what they're doing, and I would worry that just as a player, can you imagine if you're playing a match and somebody? I mean, we've all seen schoolboy football, and dads or mums, I suppose, on the sideline screaming and shouting. And I used to go and watch my son play, but I would never scream and shout it. I don't want to stop him playing his natural game. And I mean, Pep Guardiola's the famous guy for allowing, as long as the ball gets up to the forwards, he then stops saying anything, because the forwards are meant to be doing things that the defenders aren't expecting. So if I was Arteta, I know he's trying to micromanage, but he's done a lot of managing. He's done a lot of coaching. And if I were him, I'd just lay off a little bit and allow these guys to express themselves.
I just can't see him keeping the same 11 against Brighton. I'm sure, Terry, that William will be playing against Brighton.
Mad. It would be.
I'm absolutely sure. I'll put my house on it, Terry. Well,
I really hope he doesn't, because
no, he
William.
will. He will. He will. He
Really?
will.
Well, then
Yeah.
he must have something on Arteta that Arteta's. Wouldn't he
So, shall
tell
we
him?
go to the live chat? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to the live chat and see who's joined us this morning. Let's have a look. Got Colin Young says, "Good morning, Alex. Do we think Arteta learned something? I know I'm done with Saka, but I've learned something from that game too. Never should I ever see Captain Bellerin ever again." But I didn't see the game, Terry. I didn't see the game because I was out with I was at my mum's with my sister and my daughter and my wife. So I made that sacrifice, Terry, not to see the game.
But basically, Bellerin isn't the great defender, and now he's lost that yard or two of pace. That he's far better playing forward as a wing back. He didn't have a great game, but I'm wondering if there's a bit of truth in the rumour that Barcelona are buying him, and that they wanted to not exactly but they wanted to say to Barcelona, look, this guy's our captain, and we really believe in this guy, and it just might add a few million to the price tag. So, and I know we're looking at the Brighton fullback Lamptey, is it? That
Lamptey, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he's very good. He's only little. He's only 5'6", but he's like lightning. And apparently he's very good. Plays for the England under-21s. And this transfer window, I would get rid of Bellerin, as I'm sure Colin will be happy with, and I bring in Lamptey, and I bring in some, not obviously not fill the team with younger players, but if you do what Klopp did at Liverpool, sell off some players that are not really cutting it for Arsenal, but have still got value. There is value in selling him. You will get decent money for him.
Well, okay. And Colin goes on to say, "Good morning, the original Godfather."
Hey, Colin.
The assembled says, "Good morning, gents, and good morning to you, the assembled." And Dante Classic says, "Yo, Alex, I told you. What did you tell me? I had a good feeling." how's your fan? Who had COVID? It was Mr. 999, who is a regular viewer. I'm not sure if he's on live chat now, but he told me. I know he's a nurse over in the United States, and he told me he contracted COVID last week. So I can't see him in the live chat. Smith Rowe, Nutmeg Kante. Ha 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 ha. You missed. Yeah, I didn't see the game. I had to rely on the little bits I saw on a YouTube. So I missed one there, Tel.
Well, Smith Rowe has got all this. He's got a bag of tricks. He's got a deft touch, and he does what what's his name used to do. He scans. He looks before the ball comes to him. He's always looking. He's always thinking. He's getting a picture of where all the players are, and he's got an innate sense of when to increase his speed. There's a few clips where he's scanning. The ball comes to him. He plays the ball off and immediately hares into at breakneck speed into the area as Tierney has the ball, so that him and a few of the other Arsenal players are beginning to run the channels in between the centre backs. So everything about him looks good, and he is the future of Arsenal. He's a little bit of a Dennis Bergkamp about him.
Wow, wow!
Yeah.
I missed the game. And Elneny had an opportunity to score a goal as well. I hear.
He did. He did.
Hit.
The ball came and he rifled it against the bar when it looked easier to put it into the net. But yeah.
Yeah. Majid A says, hi, Alex and the Godfather, and good morning to you, Majid. I know, when you come into a Cannon for your TV, it's like, was it 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, wherever you live? Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
I missed the game. I was out, but I heard the whole team played well. I hope they carry on this momentum to the next game. Well, we're going to be facing Brighton. And who plays for Brighton? Danny Welbeck. Anyway, Amit, let's try and keep it positive. Amit says, hey, Alexa, how are you? I am fine, my friend, and I hope you are well. The 7, the Diamond Eye was right. The club is a mess. He's talking about Sven Mislintat. Yeah, he did. When he left, he did leave a couple of parting shots saying that Arsenal are in a mess. I mean, we should have had Monchi, Terry. We were so close to getting Monchi. What the hell happened?
I love Monchi. Listen, can I tell you a quick story about Danny Welbeck?
Yeah.
People won't know. Where my son was working, one of the guys working with him went to school with Danny Welbeck up in Manchester, and we were playing. It was a League Cup match, and this guy comes to my son. He said, "Listen, do you want to come? I've got a spare ticket for Arsenal tonight in a box." Oh man, Michael said, "Yeah." So he went. He met his friend, went up there, and it must have been Danny Welbeck's box. And who's in the box but Danny Welbeck's mum and dad? So they're all in there eating their prawn sandwiches with my son. And at the end of the match, and Danny Welbeck scored, I think. Danny Welbeck came up, and he's a monster, a big guy, like streaming with a cold. You know those colds you get where it streams down your eyes and whatever. And Michael my son was really surprised, and he said, well, you've just played with a really bad cold. Don't they keep you away from the other players? And Danny said, no, they don't. They keep you away, obviously, if you have a flu. But if you have a head, no, they just... So that's just a little...
Wow.
I always thought that was quite amazing. He came in roaring with his eyes, pumping water, and he scored a goal that day. So, yeah.
Wow, my goodness. A bit of insider information there. Majid A says... But let's not get carried away. Yeah. And one good game from Saka and Bellerin doesn't change anything for me. They still need to be sold. And I completely agree with you. Papering over those big, massive crater of cracks at Arsenal. But for me, they still need to be sold. Ashley says, hey up, power to the Gooners. And what else? Who else do I have here? I was happy to see Emerson Rowe play and doing well. But Terry, if why doesn't he play more often? That was his first Premier League start in over a year.
You see, I think that Arteta can't think straight at the moment. He's in panic mode. He doesn't want to lose the job. He's doing everything right from his experience. He's training them properly the way maybe Pep would, and the things that he worked out by himself and through working for different managers. And he thinks, I'm doing it right, but it's going wrong. And so he's trying to steady the ship in a storm. and obviously not just by himself, but with the guys that are around him. Maybe the BFG's in on the talks as well. They're trying to steer a route through this, and they're saying, well, don't rely on the kids. Let's keep the very experienced professionals going. It's tough for him. What I would say to people is, you all will have heard of Sir Alex Ferguson, who obviously did wonders at Manchester United. What people may not know is that when he first went there, he inherited a very poor team, a bit like Arteta inheriting a poor team. And in his first season, Manchester United very nearly went down into the second division, as it was at the time. And I remember Alex Ferguson coming through as a wonderful manager up in Scotland for Aberdeen. And he broke the duopoly of Celtic and Rangers, and they won a European Cup, maybe it was called UEFA Cup in those days. They won the title, they did wonders. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this guy Alex Ferguson is a good manager. I do believe, if you read, that we did try and get him because as our manager, because he was obviously a top manager in the making. So he comes to United, and he couldn't arrest the slide. It took him a couple of seasons. And I remember thinking, and I wish I hadn't at the time, I remember thinking, I hope they don't get rid of this guy because he's good. And give him time, give him another season or two, give him 2 seasons and he'll turn it round. And that's exactly what happened. So, translating that to Arteta, give him time. He's turning it. Now, this particular victory against Chelsea had a lot of good fortune in it, but you can win cups with good fortune. You can win all kinds of things with good fortune. So let's seize on this bit of good fortune and goals that we say were a shank instead of a proper shot and all of that. Seize upon it, because if we can we've got 2 very tricky matches coming up now, but if we can get a full 6 points, we are up and running. But I personally would jettison, my first thought would be in January, get rid of the troublemakers. I don't care how good they are, they're trouble and they're costing you points. So be sensible. If you're going to get rid of Bellerin, have a right back to come in instead of him, which I don't think Cedric Suarez is. So he's a good backup. But maybe get in this Lamptey guy if he's good. I know there's another guy. What's the other guy that plays for Norwich thereafter?
Oh, Max Aarons.
Yeah.
Maybe
look at that. But but definitely start thinking about getting some players out before you get players in. Make some money, and especially the players that have got a value left in them. Get them out. But if Socrates isn't going to be played, again, get him out, because we've got too many centre backs anyway.
Yeah. And actually, Amit says Saka, El Neni, Bellerin all need to go. Alex, do you think any Arsenal player would get into the top 4 teams or top 4 leagues? Well, yeah, I would say. Well, the current squad: Thomas Partey is one, Gabriel, Aubameyang will get in there, Saka. So we still have top line players, but as you know, Terry rightly says, we still need to get rid of a lot of the players who are deadwood, who are troublemakers, who are literally just stirring up the things in the background. And I, for one, would actually, for me, Terry, top of the list will be our number 10, along with Willian. Yeah, definitely get him out of the club.
Get him out. There is talk of our number 10, who shall remain nameless, going off to Juve, and Arsenal paying half his wages. Great. Get him out. Just get the man out. He's causing so much trouble. I think what I've said before, if you're a professional in any business, you don't start going on social media and stirring things up. It doesn't matter what job you're in. It's unprofessional and unforgivable in it, and I would be furious if I was part of the Arsenal hierarchy. I would be saying, this, I mean, maybe they should put it in players' contracts that, if they're not playing, they can't start stirring it. What he's saying is, I'm doing a question and answer session. Well, we all know what kind of questions people are going to ask him, and we all know what kind of answers he's going to give them. So that, to me, as a professional, is a no-no.
I just wondered how would Alex Fergie would have dealt with modern day footballers with the social medias and they're coming out straight after the game saying, "Oh, this is what I thought. This is what happened." How would have Alex Ferguson dealt with that? Would he? Oh my
Well,
goodness.
Alex Ferguson had a henchman, didn't he? He had Roy Keane.
Oh, yeah.
He had a henchman. Now we had, if you like, a slightly more benign henchman in Tony Adams. Now Tony Adams would have been really upset if a player had bad mouthed Arsenal on the media. But of course, what Arsenal did, and a lot of companies do this, they do these team building days and so on. And Arsenal's team building seemed to go on down the pub. But if anybody's been on the Arsenal website, you've got them playing this Nerf game and these shooting games and sort of electronic shooting and stuff, and that's good. They're all kind of team games to try and encourage players to be pals and maybe in a in a different discipline. And we need lots more of that. We need these players to be friends off the pitch, but to be professional. And obviously, drink isn't going to come into it anymore. And we do have cliques. The club is separated off into cliques, and that's a massive shame.
Yeah, but you get that in any team, don't you? You get any cliques. You know, you find certain players going to feel like they're on the outskirts rather than being included in the main. You got to get that in most clubs, aren't you, Tel?
Well, the famous one that people might have seen is a few of the players during the first lockdown went off to a park in Barnet, and an Arsenal fan saw them and filmed them. And who was it? It was Socrates,
David
Luiz,
Luiz.
and the man who shall not be named. Was it? Was he? But anyway, now to me, if you had a strong guy in there like Tony Adams, he would have done his nut. You've broken the lockdown rules.
Yeah.
You've gone for a private training session in a local park. What? Get up to London Colney. You all know the guys who open and lock the gates. Say, can we have a kickabout? He'd say, yeah, come on in, lads. But to go to a local park, and you know people are going to be walking their dogs, and sooner or later in North London, an Arsenal fan is going to walk past and go, oh, it's those three. Now, Arsenal kind of quashed it and didn't make a big thing of it in the press, but I'm sure that, they were very disappointed. This is the kind of behaviour that weakens a club. And if this is what we found out about, goodness knows what goes on that we haven't found out about. We found out about people going off to Dubai when they shouldn't be going there. Now we've got players who are supposedly not very well, but they can't, for love nor money, find a test. I mean, it's poppycock, isn't it, to put it politely? I don't know how that translates to American, but it's basically nonsense. And there's a lot of nonsense going on at the back. We need some directors, like I'll keep pumping up David O'Leary, but it needn't be him. It could be Bob Wilson. We need people in that boardroom who've been there, who've been professionals and know what it is to be a professional, know what it is to be a manager, and say, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Not just find them, but get into a team meeting and tear them off a strip. You've got to challenge these guys, otherwise they will run you ragged. And if you've got 3 or 4 meeting after training or going around each other's houses and all this kind of stuff, even without meaning to foment problems, they are going to, because they're going to talk about things and they're going to talk about that player's not very good and I don't think Arteta's doing that right. And that's bad news. If you've got something to say it in a team meeting. Don't have 3 or 4 mates all agreeing with you. Then you've immediately created a clique, and that isn't good enough.
So, did you see the video that I sent you of Brian Clough, the interview of David Frost?
No, I haven't seen that yet. I did see the one. The one that's always interesting is the one where he meets Don Revie.
Yeah.
Don Revie was the ex-manager of Leeds.
Yeah.
Clough took over. And Brian Clough and him had a real tete-a-tete. I haven't looked at the one you mentioned.
Yeah, have a look at it, because actually, he actually talks. David Frost asked him the question about London clubs. Why are London clubs not doing so well? And Clough says, well, because the players have too many distractions off the field. I'm thinking this interview was done in the 70s, and how true it rings of today. So many distractions away from the pitch. But yeah, you got to watch it. It's really really insightful as always with Brian Clough.
I'll tell you an interesting thing. Was it Ian Wright used to room with Dennis Bergkamp? And
Yeah.
and he said, I can't read his biography. He said that Dennis has no other interests other than his family and football. And he said, even though he was younger than Ian Wright, I think, or around about the same age, when they first roomed together, he had his silk pajamas ready on the bed, and he went into the bathroom, brushed his teeth, and he said the man had no other things to take him away from what he was good at, which was being a footballer and being a family man. And as you say, we've got these guys that have all. There's a lot of agendas going on.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of. I think there's a lot of political agendas as well going on, and I do think as well, to add to the whole mix, Dan Kroenke coming in and asking, if not demanding, certainly asking for a 20% wage cut, and then sacking most of the sort of regular staff that were there. That's not good. That's bad news. So, as James Rowe always says, right from the top, it's going wrong. And making players do that. I mean, I personally think most of them are overpaid. And people who followed Arsenal and the history of Arsenal will know that we signed George Easton. This is before I was supporting them. And George Easton had gone on strike with Newcastle United because at the time we had a maximum wage ruling or law. And he challenged that, and they got rid of the maximum wage, and he immediately left and went off to Arsenal. But now we've got the opposite, where these guys are holding clubs to sort of ransom, and the clubs are desperate to keep them. And then suddenly the players' form drops. Now, we can all argue why that is. Maybe they're not hungry anymore. Maybe they only worked hard. Personally, I've seen players play brilliantly until they sign the contract, and then suddenly they go back to being pretty average again. So there is a question of motivation, whether it's psychological at the back of their mind or on purpose. And yeah, so money ruins things, and our club, as far as I know, is the only club that has demanded that players, or fervently asked, that they take a 20% drop in wages. And of course, it's interesting that some of our players didn't go with that. They continued taking their money, and then all around them, people they would have known, buzzing around the club, the tea lady, this person, that person, suddenly hasn't got a job. None of that works. So unfortunately, the more you dig into this, and I don't want to dig Arsenal out in any respect, the more you dig into this, it's not good. Now, I've got a friend who's a steward there. As far as I know, he hasn't lost his job. I've got him on Facebook. I'll ask him. But, you know, if he's lost his job and somebody else is that, then you begin to think, hang on, these people, they're Arsenal fans. That's why they're working at Arsenal as stewards. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they absolutely love the club. You know?
Ah, dearie me. Magic says Arteta saying how Tierney and Martinelli had a good connection and a good link up with all the energy on the left. And I was thinking, this is like Liverpool. They have a strong left and right sides. Yeah, again, I saw the little link up play there on the highlights on YouTube. Tierney, I've always said literally he's probably a candidate for captain. Played a blinder apparently. Played blinder against.
He did, and Martinelli. Yeah, you're right. I was watching a video a little while ago, or just reading something about the way Man City set up and the way Liverpool set up. Man City set up by using their central midfielders to open up the space in the penalty box, whereas Arteta's Arsenal and Liverpool, Klopp's Liverpool, used their wing backs and their left backs and right backs to sort of open up the space and then throw in crosses or cutbacks and so on. So there's two different schools of thought on how that's done. And if you watch Man City, they go more through the sort of channels in front of the penalty area, zone 14 as it's called. But Klopp's Liverpool, Arteta's Arsenal tend to use the fullbacks. Yep, absolutely right.
Yeah. Magic goes on to say, actually, on the other side of our wing, he says, so we need to get a stronger right side too, get a good right back and a good right winger. Look, do we
Well,
not have well, Pepe is not a winger. He's not a
well,
winger.
he's not a winger. I mean, I was screaming for the last few matches at we need a dribbler, somebody who can dribble past opponents. Now, Santi Cazorla was originally a winger, and then as he gradually lost pace, they moved him into midfield, and then as a deep line midfield playmaker. The one thing we don't seem to have is a really great dribbler, a winger. I know they're looking at a guy in Germany who's supposed to be a very good dribbler. And I know that this Lamptey guy is supposed to be a wonderful dribbler. So I think Arteta must see it, because we keep, in order to go past people, we keep having to make sort of wall passes. We seem to have sort of players in triangles and so on, so that we play round them. But actually, can you imagine if we had a guy, talking about Brian Clough, we had a guy called Robertson who used to say, if you give him a 10-yard strip of grass, he'll take the ball, he'll dribble it past anybody. And he used to, from a standing start and the fullback against him, then he'd just knock it past and go past and cross it. The problem with Pepe is Lille didn't really use him as a winger. He came inside all the time. He played off other people. And again, he's a tight space player. We seem to have all these tight... in the penalty area, he's absolutely dynamite, because he either goes past you or you foul him. But of course, people know that. The number of times I've seen Pepe get the ball for Arsenal, and then he's got two people in front he has to beat, and then a third person. And whereas Adama Traore, when he played against us most recently, he against Tierney, and he can almost beat anybody. The guy's a powerhouse, and he just knocks the ball past you, and he's gone. You know. Now, when we had Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, and Tierney, then he's got a problem, because the first player will address him, and the other one will pick up any loose ball that comes after that. So Pepe is not a right winger, and we desperately need a right winger who can dribble past people. And I'm afraid Willian is not the answer. He might have been 5 years ago, but he isn't the answer. And Arteta, you've been badly advised. And we know that it might be the agent who's set this up, and get him out. Just set him now. Set him now.
Yeah. Colin Young says, yes, there are more. Tell the story, I'll tell. Aziz needs to be next. Well, I mean, for Miguel Aziz, he looks so unrushed in the midfield. But you think it's probably a season too soon for him. For me, if you're good enough, you're old enough, tell. Play him.
I mean, I like Aziz. He's got real poise, and he takes a picture of the game in front of him, and he knows when he has time, and then he takes his time and so on. Another player who I really like that stands out is Cottrell. That's his name. He looks a bit like Alan Ball, sort of red hair. He plays a bit like Wilshere. And he looks a real pro. I mean, you see him play. He's only tiny. I'd say he's about 5'6", 5'7", but he really goes past people. He's very left-footed, so he's got a touch of the Liam Brady's about him. And as soon as you see him play for the under-23s, you think, oh yeah, that guy is going to be a top pro. So with Aziz and all these other guys that are coming through, we've got some cracking players. And as James Rose says, we've got two very good centre-backs coming through as well. And that's not even including Saliba. I would be putting Saliba on the bench now. If they're not going to loan him out, get him on the bench. I mean, rumours have been that once he plays for the first team, we have to pay Saint Etienne another 5 million. Well, for crying out, are we that bad? I mean, just sell Willian and you'll get 5 million for him. You know.
Amit's asking a question. Alex, will Ainsley Maitland-Niles leave the club in the summer? I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. I just want, we kept him from going and leaving to go to Wolves. If it were not for the derisory bid that they made for, I think, like 12 or 15 million pounds. But yeah, I hope he doesn't leave. I don't have any news on Ainsley Maitland-Niles.
Can I say on Ainsley? I love Ainsley. I think he's a top. But he's got a funny attitude. And I've met many people with this super cool attitude. Work with him. Don't take offense, because some people don't understand his attitude and they take offense. He's a good guy. He's got this lovely laid back and he's laughing and joking. Laugh with him. He's not laughing at you. And even if he is laughing at you, if you're his boss or his teacher or whatever, go with him. Don't challenge him. The guy's heart is in the right place. Allow him to be himself. Go with him. You saw him putting his arm around Saka and having a good laugh. If I was the manager and he was laughing at me, I'd put my arm around him and I'd be laughing too. Just become one of the lads with him for a few seconds. Just say, man, I really appreciate you playing. Your humour is a bit dodgy, especially if I'm on the sort of wrong end of it, but go with it. And the guy will respect you for it. So, I would hate to see him go. I think he's going to be a cracking central midfield player. I really do. He's got the athleticism. Who else has got his athleticism? Only a handful of other people. He covered. Listen, the guy, Nuno Espirito Santo, is no fool. He sees this guy has fantastic. He covers the pitch. It's all about athleticism and skill, and he has both. And whenever we've asked him to play, he's done a wonderful job. So I know he's got this manner that might wind people up, but again, like you and I, if you're working with people like we are, you can work with that.
Yeah.
He's a good laugh. I'd have a laugh with him. And the moment you allow him in and you allow him to have a bit of a laugh and a joke at your expense, he buys into you then. Because you're not the boss telling him do this, do this, do this. You're becoming his, well, it's not his mate, because you still want to be the boss, but you're showing him you're human, and then the guy will love you forever. So he could be the kingpin that we base our new midfield around. Can you imagine?
But tell you play him at whose expense? Who would you take out of the 11 to play
straight away,
Eze?
straight away, El Neni.
Nene. Okay.
Get him out. And I'd put him in there straight away.
Okay. True Guna, good morning. One of my moderators on this morning show. Saka was excellent. I didn't see the game. I only saw the highlights. Funny how as soon as there is movement in front of him, he can pass forward and pick them out. The Smith period strikes again. Have we been too harsh? Nah. I'm sorry. Listen, if it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's a duck. I just can't, Terry. I just can't get past what he did, with the armband and the shirt. I can't get past that point there, Terry. And he didn't apologize. He hasn't apologized, even for his red card. He hasn't. I can't get past that point there, Terry. I can't.
Yeah, I've been in. We've all been in situations where people annoy you, and you're in a sport or whatever. But I've never gone for a person's throat. What? What's that?
Me.
And the guy wasn't even going for him. He just
exactly.
It's not as if he was defending himself. The guy was an innocent part of it. And they were having a bit of handbags and arguing and shouting, but going for his throat.
No.
That should not be your default position. Because all that's going to happen is, the red mist has come down, you're off, and you've just cost the club 3 points. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chugun. I'm sorry. Excellent game. Martinelli is a defender's worst nightmare. I saw he put Kante on his backside with a quick shift to the right. He causes so much mayhem and threat. Him and Tierney on the left gave us threat in every dimension. But now we need to have that in equal amounts on the right-hand side as well. Even though Saka scored that goal that he meant to score, Terry.
The first time we played Saka on the right-hand side was about 3 or 4 months ago, and he looked pretty poor. But he's got better and better and better. So at least he could. I mean, the guy seems to be able to gobble up any position. You could play him in goal, and he'd probably play a blinder. I mean, it's almost anywhere you play him. He could end up as a Liam Brady type central midfielder, spraying the ball about. So I mean, we've got a few top quality diamonds in there, and we've got some diamonds coming through. And I think the time has come for Arteta to start getting some more young players in. It's also very hard, when you take over a club and you take over players who've kind of put down roots, and you don't know who's talking behind your back to whom and so on, then, well, I think we kind of do now. I think it's pretty obvious who the troublemakers are. And you've just got to, this is going to be a period of, the rest of this season of getting those guys out. And we're approaching January now. Get them out. My biggest worry is I don't think we've got a great negotiator in there. And it's a real shame that we couldn't bring in somebody with real great. I mean, David Dean is the obvious example of somebody who knows how to negotiate. If anybody's how he got Ian Wright, he asked the Crystal Palace chairman, could he buy Ian Wright, and the chairman said no. And he said, well, look, if I, people were to offer you money for him, how much would you say that you couldn't say no for? And he said something like 2 million or 3 million, whatever it was. And Dean said, done. He knows how to trick people into agreeing to sell their best player. So,
but what is Vinay's role in this?
Vinay
Trinity?
the chief financial officer, really, isn't it? So it's a bit like your bursar in a school, right? Or something. The person who balances the books, really, and the auditors come in and interview him and so on. So he's not going to be part of that. And then you have you're going to need somebody in there who gets on well with people on a video phone or whatever you want to call it now, so that they can chat to other chairmen and other managers, and then you finally need somebody to come in with all the contract expertise. And I have heard it mooted that some of our more recent signings, that there is a clause in the contract that says they do take a wage cut if we drop a division.
Yeah.
So I think if that's true, I bet you we don't get relegated, because when it starts to look really bad, if it did in March time, you'd suddenly get these players on big wages playing their hearts out to try and keep it. Unfortunately, money's crept in here, and passion has gone out.
Yeah. Saka says, Majid says, Saka's goal was not a fluke. He looked up and saw Laka was marked and no one was open in the box, and he saw the keeper off the line and went for a chip. What, you mean a chip? What? Fish and chips? No, I know what you mean. But yeah, and like Terry says, the look of the goalkeeper's face when he went in, it's like, how did he do that? Oh dear. Chuguna says Saka threw on the right finally meant that Bellerin could do his own job very well and not try and do sorry guys, because the print is so small, and his and William, great balance to the team. I have to say Laka suits that team better than Terry.
It does. It's interesting what Trugun is saying, that as soon as you get Saka on the right hand side, then Bellerin can do all the underlaps, overlaps, and so on.
Yeah.
And we've got Martinelli and Tierney on the other side, ripping at breakneck speed. I mean, these guys are fast. As Arsene Wenger used to say, you can give players an awful lot. You can give them greater skills, greater tactical awareness, but you can't give them speed. And the one thing defenders hate, talk to Sol Campbell, I've read his autobiography, the one thing they hate is pace. Because he's gone past you, and you can't juggling because he's gone. You can't sort of get up close to him. He's gone, So he's somehow, Arteta has stumbled upon a team that kind of gels and
you just need to keep it the same for Brighton game, Terry. Keep it, please, the same. Don't change it, please.
Play the same players. Come on, they've earned this. Arteta sitting down at home, you never know. You might think, I'll tune into Cannon Fodder again. I don't know where I'm going with this team. Oh, that Alex will sort me out. Well, just play, man. Just play the same team.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie. If they win the next one, they're all going to go, boys, we can do this. And then you've got the guys that are outside the tent going, what's going on here? These young kids. That's what you need.
Ashton says, now the window is here. Let's not be reactionary. I agree. As many people have said, Hell N has many solutions for Arsenal's problems. Let fans understand also that young players will make mistakes. That's a good balance sentence you put there. Let's not be reactionary. Let's be, oh my goodness. yeah, you're right. The youngsters, they of course themselves will make mistakes, and we've got to give them time, Terry. Huh?
Yeah. No, I was very lucky to go and see one of my ex pupils playing in goal at Hale End about 3 years ago. And unfortunately, Arsenal in the end didn't sign him up. But his mum said, if you want to come along, come along. And they've got training pitches. It's just off the A406 North Circular. And you show your pass, which this young guy's mum did, and I saw all the different teams play. There's lots of games going on in different parts, and there's also somebody filming a lot of the games, and the players then get a DVD of of the game, and they've got to critique what they could have done better. So obviously, when they have a team meeting again, they say, well, if it was a fullback, they said I should have got tighter there, or should have dropped off there, and so on.
Mm.
And I believe they do something like that with even the first team. They get them to look at the previous game, and they've got to come up with some things they could have done better. So it's a good way of getting the player to own their mistakes, or at least own ways they could improve. So that's just a little insight into. It's really nice. There's a 2-story building in there, and I think the players get fed, if I remember rightly. And it's a nice vibe. And in fact, in the game that my friend played in, he was substitute goalkeeper, and the Fulham goalkeeper we're playing against got badly injured. It's never nice to see with a young lad of 13, 14. So in goes the guy. The first time I've seen him play was actually in a a Fulham kit, which he was not happy with. But at half time, whatever they did, they swapped him, and he played the second half in Arsenal colours.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Shaka has too much arrogance, but not enough talent to back it up. 1 or 2 games a season is not enough. Time is up, and it's time for him to go. I agree. Ashley says, I wonder if some senior players feel embarrassed by the endeavour shown by the young players. Of course, it must be a little bit jarring for them to see that, yeah, actually, I'm supposed to be the main headline act here, and I've got youngsters, yeah, doing the business. What are your thoughts, Tel?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things from what I can gather is that Xhaka is a bit of a character in the dressing room, and
Yeah.
he's like the silverback gorilla. Everybody kind of kowtows. And when you lose a person like that, you've got a vacuum. Now, what I would be doing, which George Graham always used to do, was look at a player's character as well as their skills. And I would be getting a big character in. I'd be scouring around, trying to find whatever I'm looking for, right back, left back, central midfield, whatever, winger. But try and find a strong character that is going to back you. And because unfortunately, I suppose Arteta would have to look at Man City players. You almost need a player that has played for you before, and you kind of would have your back. But it's also a strong personality, because dressing rooms always have strong personalities, and it's a beautiful counterbalance to the manager. So we had Tony Adams and George Graham, and at the moment I'm not sure, apart from Xhaka, who's a strong personality in that dressing room, and I do worry that it's Luiz and Willian.
What about
And if
Tierney? What
well,
about Tierney?
Tierney should be, because he should be captain or vice captain, because there's nothing he ever says that you know he loves Arsenal. He's joyous that he's playing down here, and he's a very straightforward guy. What you see is what you get, and what he says is straight down the line. Totally supportive of playing for football club. But these guys who've been around, like Luiz, they've won this, they've won that, they've been international players. The Arsenal is just a stopping off point.
Yeah.
And if a player thinks that, get him out.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Let's see if I can run through these comments. Just been like scanning the comments. There's just so many comments in the live chat. Let's see if I can catch up. I put Pepe in for Smith Rowe next game. I think being central. Actually, did Pepe get any minutes on Saturday? He didn't play, did he? Or did he?
No.
No?
I don't think so. Don't think so.
No?
I remember.
I put Pepe in for Emerson Rowe next game. I think being central would unlock his talent fully. He is a finisher and would stick the ball in the back of the net all day long.
Can I
Young,
just? He played like we call a number 8. He
mm,
played, if you like, inside right, to use the old terminology. He didn't play as an out and out winger for Lille, and he played when there's bodies in the penalty box. And the moment he got in the penalty box, people stood off him. And he's got this wonderful left foot. I haven't got much of a right foot, but he's got his wonderful left foot. And it's a puzzle that if you go and buy a player and you look at footage of what he does well for his previous club, you then try and turn him into something else, and then you become surprised when he doesn't do it. He's not the sort of player that can get the ball and run one-on-one because he's too slow at receiving the ball and turning,
yeah,
by which point there's 2 players on him. But if
yeah,
he's in that inside right position and he's on the edge of the area somewhere, then the guy's dynamite. And his finishing, as that chap just said, is superb. People may not know he used to be a goalkeeper. And so people asked him,
yeah.
finishing so good? And he said, because I used to be a goalkeeper for a lot, and I know exactly where goalkeepers don't want the ball placed. So his placement of a ball is generally very good.
Mm. Someone says, LTEL, the sign-off party was a great benchmark. What concerns me is as everything is slowly taking shape, and I'm hoping the casualties won't be the young players, i.e. Bellingham, etc. Well, Bellingham hasn't signed a contract, essentially, as far as we know. But to the point about the casualties and the youngsters might fall foul of injuries, Terry.
Yeah, I mean, it's good between now and the end of the season. It's going to have to be a mixture of the young and the older players. But I would make a point of dropping and, if possible, selling some of our troublemakers. I think we are going to get out of this. I don't think we are going to, drop a division. And I would give, once we get enough points in the bag to know we're safe, I'll be playing Balogun every second week and
Yeah.
try to get him to really enjoy being part of Arsenal Football Club. And because he is a free agent, and all you can do now, you can't corner him. That's impossible. And if he thinks you're cornering him, then he's not going to be happy. All you've got to do is get him to feel so good about being an Arsenal centre forward that he wants to stay. But a lot of people like Ornstein are saying he's probably gone. So,
Yeah.
again, it may be too late, but if he's going to get us goals between now and May, stick him up front, but not continually. You're going to have to rotate the young players. They will pick up injuries. It's interesting that Partey, who is never injured for Atleti, has started picking up this consistent injury. And I personally think it's because of the pace of the English Premier League. It is so pacey that suddenly his body wouldn't do it.
No.
And that's what any player who comes in says. The pace is so quick, so he's going to take a while until he's up to speed, I think.
Yeah. Actually, he says, let's just hope Arteta does not put the 2 Wombles back in as soon as the Xmas Corona has been cleared.
Well,
The Wombles. Why would you remove Emerson Rowe, who had a great game for an underperforming Pepe? Emerson Rowe needs to be rewarded for his good performances with more game time. In that double pivot, Partey is the right-sided midfielder.
yes,
Yeah, yeah. Ainsley Maitland-Niles should be the deputy. El Neni isn't needed.
yeah, absolutely. It
He's right. Yeah,
shows you
yeah,
how bad our midfield is that El Neni sometimes looks quite a good player. But absolutely, if and when Partey gets fit, put him alongside Ainsley, and the 2 of them will work it out. And then you've got a real start to a fantastic. And then put Emile Smith Rowe in that number 10 or slightly advanced place, and then you've started to have a really good team in there.
yeah. DS Electronics Unlimited says, "Big up Alex and the stream. The original Godfather. Did you see the crab, Shaka?" Oh dear.
All I can say to DS Electronics Unlimited is, what you must always remember is, people like Shaka is an international player. Of course, he has those goals in his locker, and nobody's denying that he hasn't got some fantastic qualities. Personally, I think if you balance it out, I'd get him out because I think his qualities are probably 40% worth having and 60% not worth having. So he's very good at certain things. He pings a long ball, but then he's incredibly slow. He's good at the turning circle of a tanker, an oil tanker. He's obviously full of himself, and he allows himself to get angry when he needs a cool head. So yes, I mean there's a lot going inside the guy's head. I think he's originally from Albania, his people, and that's why wasn't there something about him taking off his shirt in a World Cup match and he had the Albanian flag on it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
an eagle with the so he's got political things which is absolutely fine, so he's got a lot of things going on in his head, but I just want to know about him playing for Arsenal, and as a sidelight, yes, if he wants to talk about his politics, that's fine, but I really want the guy to focus on playing for Arsenal.
Yeah. James Cantian says, so glad Martinelli is back. Injects pace and intensity to our attack. Yeah, really glad to see him back. Just one thing I wanted to say about Saka. As much as he's played so well, I just don't want Arsenal to burn him out, Terry. I just thinking the guy is deserving of a break. Got to give Saka a break, otherwise we're gonna. Yeah.
I think that's this next match. Although we all want him to play the same team, there is a danger. Martinelli is running at full pelt all the time. Saka is doing everything, and more than we can ask of him. So I don't know. I think Arteta will look at the way Brighton set up. Is it Brighton we're playing next?
Yeah.
I think he'd look at the way Brighton set up, and he may. I mean, he's kept Oba back for a while, and we don't quite know why that is. Maybe he'll play Oba. But our best players will burn out and playing 2 matches a week. The way these guys play it, I think is too much. So I don't know how it works out fitness wise if you brought Martinelli on after 60 minutes or something, had somebody else play there, just to give the guys. I mean, he's only just come back after a long-term injury, and if he gets injured again, so I think you're going to have to sort of be very careful with him, monitor him. Can I just talking about how hard people work and run? Arteta made a comment the other day that the players are all working hard and running hard, and they've all got this thing embedded in the back of their jersey that kind of sends radio signals to a computer somewhere so that they can monitor how fast they're running, their sprints, how much ground that they sort of cover. And I think Arteta was being a bit loose with the truth when he was saying, oh, all the players are running hard and so on. Well, to my eye and to most fans' eyes, we've got hiders, we've got kidders, they've become known, and they hide away from passing lanes. So I don't think he was telling us the full truth. But you know what? That's probably number one in the handbook of being a manager. Don't tell the truth all the time, because you don't want to bury the players in their mistakes, which is a teaching skill, isn't it? If a kid gets a whole lot of things wrong, you don't go, well, that was a complete waste of time. Then, you kind of you try and keep it upbeat and try and keep people on your side. So I don't believe what he said there. I think they're fully aware of the people who hide. And then you've got a decision. If you've got there's metrics of people that are not doing their job, your question then is, do you talk to them in front of the whole team about it? And some players respond to that. Some would hate that. Or do you call them in separately and saying, we know what's going on. Why aren't you making yourself available? You need to be in a passing lane and so on. So I'm sure there's lots and lots of that going on currently.
Got Apollo from 101 and Arsenal says, I'm afraid that William has to play at some point due to the amount of games to be played rotation, but not tomorrow, please, not tomorrow. like I said, we're on a good thing here. He's kind of stumbled on a good formation and the 11 there. Keep it the same. Don't tinker with the squad, please.
He looks. I don't know if anybody. I've never seen him smile. He goes on as if
That's a point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he grimaces and he looks as though somebody's forced him to play for Arsenal. It's like you and me being given a Tottenham kit and say, go on there, otherwise we'll shoot you nearest and dearest. Go on, but you play with a scowl on your face and you make as big a mess of it as possible.
So there's a question for you. Hey, Alexander Godfather, do you think Arteta consults Pepe about what to do at Arsenal as he's inexperienced and in danger of losing his job?
Yeah, I mean, I think they talk about it, but I don't think it's working because, as I've said, if you look at what he sort of did at Lille, he doesn't play as an outright winger. He didn't there. And if they're trying to change him into something, you don't pay 72 million and say, we're now going to change you from what you're really good at into something else. So I don't personally think, unless there's a really bad run of results, I think Arteta will be with us at the start of next season. And in the next month, we're going to find out whether Arsenal are going to back him in the transfer market. I suspect because Kroenke is in charge of the show, running the show, that the only money Arteta will have to spend is by selling first. Well, so be it. You're going to have to do this. Now, you haven't got what Klopp had, which is a Coutinho that is up for 140 million or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, imagine if we could somehow magic up that, and get rid of Louise and William for that amount of money. Then, so our club, unfortunately, has been very, very badly run over a number of years. With 1 minute, we've got Wenger running the whole show. Then Wenger goes, and we've got about 5 or 6 guys with their fingers in the pie. And now we're back to 2 or 3 running it. And there's got to be a happy medium. And we need an old head, person with an old head on their shoulders in that boardroom, and maybe alongside Vinay, making the phone calls, clinching deals, doing all those things that David Dean used to do. And let's not forget that, until it all went wrong and he sold his shares to Kroenke, he was instrumental in making the modern Arsenal, the modern era, into the powerhouse club that we were for 2 decades.
Ashton says it took Ferguson 4 seasons to win a trophy against Palace. I remember he was on the verge of being sacked, and he managed to turn it around. But again, there is the blueprint. We've got to give Mikel Arteta time. I can see what he's trying to do there, but it's not going to happen if we're so reactionary and we want him out. You've got to give him time, and he's inexperienced. But this is what you get with an inexperienced manager. Got to give him time. Got to give him time.
Absolutely.
Let me quickly try and run through all of these. What else? I saw something else here for you. Here's one here for you, Terry. Would you swap Pepe for Wilfred Zaha?
Yep, straight away. Number one, Zaha's performances are better. Number two, he takes the ball at players and goes past them. And number three, and this is an important one, he's an Arsenal fan. And if I was Arsenal manager, I'd always look around for players, but I'd also say, which of these players is known to support Arsenal? Because you'll get 20% more. And you're paying. Listen, if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd play for 20% less. I'd be saying to my agent, look, just knock the price down by 20% and I'll play, man. I'm not worried about the money. Of course, George Graham did that so often. He'd say, it's only when you're playing well, I'll pay you the big money. So, yes, straight away, Zaha in, job done, loves playing for the Arsenal. His eyes light up. Get him in that dressing room. He'll be telling people, guys, I love this club. I've dreamed of playing for this club my whole life. What a difference in that dressing room. Get him in straight away. Swap him. Yep.
Colokin Timms brings us right down to earth, crashing. He says, do you really think after winning against Chelsea we got out of this mess? I don't believe in it. Arsenal incapable of losing the next 5 matches. Arteta out. Your opinion?
I think the thing is, he's in a way, this guy knows that we are at a pivotal moment. If we build, I mean, when we beat Chelsea, I wasn't as impressed with Arsenal as a lot of people are going overboard in. I thought, we had the rub of the green and great, fantastic, and Chelsea maybe were a little bit below par. But a win's a win. You get many wins like that, and you can be the better team and lose quite often. And of course, we've only been losing by these sort of odd goals, so it's not been a total disaster. But I did think the moment the whistle was blown at the end of the match against Chelsea, I remember thinking we've got to win the next two matches.
Yeah,
Got to
yeah, it's a
win that.
must.
Then you've suddenly got 9 points out of 9. You're beginning to creep up towards safety. Then you've got a chance.
So you think we'll finish above Chelsea this season with this result? No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. And good to see Mr. 999. Thank goodness. The chap who told me last week he got COVID. What's up, fellow gangsters?
Dark glasses out.
Behave yourself, Mr. 999. And Apollo says I would make a holding captain before Tierney. Possibly.
Well, do you know what? I always like the centre back as captain. I've got to say, over the years, I think our best captains have either been central defensive midfield or centre back. We've had Vieira as captain. We've had Tony Adams. All our great captains can see the play in front of them, and I can see why they don't. Some people are saying we don't really want a left back as a captain. So I'm not sure that Holding in a year's time is still going to be playing for us. To be honest, I think there are better centre backs around. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me just try and run through these very, very quickly. I've got Andrea who says, good morning, everyone. And Andrea, good morning to you. Karum says, play the youth. Who else do we have here? Original Godfather, your humorous is a bit dodgy. Behave yourself. Oh dear. And Mr. Nine says, Shugana, way better. Appreciate the asking. Thank goodness for that, Mr. Nine. I was a little bit concerned about you. Good to hear from you back in the live chat. Let's see, what else can I pick up quicker before we finish with this one. Let's see. Ali G says, I want Arteta to succeed, but will he? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. We've got to give him time. Yeah, it's only one transfer window he's had. Just been here for over just one season. It's not enough time. Got to give the guy time. But anyway. Tel, I think we're finished, Tel.
All right.
There's loads more. But if I read all the comments, we'll be here for another hour and a half. And I've got to have my lunch. I haven't made my lunch. I haven't had my cocoa yet. We'll be back in 5 hours' time with our good friend James Rowe. Again, just talking about the latest Arsenal news and maybe some other bits and pieces. I think James Rowe's got a line of interviews that he wants to talk about on the evening segment. Elto will also be back. I know you're asking now, is Terry coming back? Terry's coming back. Watch out for the I've recorded a video in regards to Thomas Partey's update on injury, and so watch out for that. I'm not going to tell you about it. If I did, what was the point of watching the video? But Terry, listen, it's been good to have you back for Christmas, man.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Passion seeing you and seeing all the people coming through again. We're starting to get to sort of know them now, which is nice.
Yeah.
We're all part of
and like we said as well, this time, being it like winter, the long nights, it's a little bit difficult to kind of motivate yourselves. But thank goodness we've got Cannon 4 TV to provide some entertainment as well as some escapism. So we'll be back in 5 hours' time. Terry, thank you again, my friend. Thank you very much again, and we'll be back. We'll be back. And for those of you who've been wondering who or what you've been watching, well, you've been watching and listening to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world.